Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. Today we're tackling something that it's close to home for a lot of guys out there. Divorce, and yeah, it can be a real battle.
It really can be. There's so much emotional turmoil, and sometimes it feels like you're just totally powerless.
Exactly. And to guide us through this, we're diving into surviving the divorce wars. This book's written by a guy who went through a really rough divorce himself, and he's not holding back. He's talking about the legal system, the financial hit, and all the pressure society throws at men going through this.
Yeah, what's powerful about the book is how honest he is. He really argues that the system is rigged against men, especially when it comes to custody and finance.
Yeah, he uses that term rig system a lot, and it really makes you think. One of the first things that jumped out at me was the statistic he throws out. Fathers only get sole or primary custody 10% of the time. That's a huge red flag.
Yeah, that's a big one. And it makes you question how societal expectations and the legal system are working. Historically, mothers were seen as the primary caregiver, but roles are changing, and it seems like the system hasn't caught up.
Right, and that ties into the financial drain. He talks about alimony, child support. It can really wipe a guy out, especially when you add legal fees on top of that. He tells this story about a guy named John who loses custody because of false accusations and ends up paying a fortune in alimony.
John's story really shows how vulnerable men can be in this system. It's not just about the money, it's about the emotional impact, feeling trapped, the potential for being taken advantage of.
It's like the system assumes you're guilty until proven innocent, and the burden of proof is on the man. He argues that some women use this to their advantage, making accusations that are hard to disprove and can sway the judge's decision.
Yeah, and he points out how that fear of false accusations can make men afraid to fight for their rights or defend themselves. It creates this environment of fear and uncertainty that hangs over the whole process.
And it's not just the legal and financial stuff that's hard. There's also that pressure from society, the expectation that men have to be strong and stoic, the providers, even when everything's falling apart. He quotes a man who felt like a total failure because he couldn't financially support his ex-wife and kids after the divorce.
It speaks to a bigger issue how men aren't really allowed to be vulnerable, to show their emotions and struggles. Society tells them to just man up and deal with it, and that can lead to all sorts of problems down the line.
It's like they're damned if they do and damned if they don't. Punished for showing weakness and punished for not living up to these outdated ideas of what a man should be. And that's where his advice on coping mechanisms comes in, right?
Absolutely. He says it's crucial to find support. Friends, family, therapists, people who can give you a safe space to work through those emotions and start rebuilding.
And it's not just about talking. It's also about practical things like exercise, meditation, journaling. Anything that can help you regain control and feel better.
He even talks about rediscovering yourself after divorce, taking time to figure out what you value and what's important to you, setting new goals that align with who you are now.
Like a forced reinvention, I guess.
Yeah.
It can be scary, but it's also a chance to grow and change for the better.
He really wants men to embrace that opportunity, to set new goals, personal, professional, anything that gives them a sense of purpose.
It could be something small like learning a new skill or taking up a hobby or even traveling somewhere you've always dreamed of. It's about reclaiming your life and making it your own.
He acknowledges that there are practical challenges too. You might be living in a smaller place, having to adjust to a tighter budget and juggling new responsibilities.
Yeah, downsizing can be rough, especially if you were used to a certain way of life. But he says to see it as a chance to simplify, declutter, create a space that truly reflects who you are now.
It's about creating a place where you can heal, recharge, and plan for the future.
What about dating after divorce? That's a whole other challenge, especially if you haven't been on the dating scene for a while.
He doesn't sugarcoat it. He says it can be scary, especially with all the dating apps and the way things are now, but he encourages men to go into it with an open mind and a positive
He
attitude.
talks about being authentic, being upfront about who you are and what you want, instead of trying to fit some mold.
Right. He warns against jumping into new relationships too quickly. He says take the time to heal from the divorce, figure out what went wrong, and be clear about what you're looking for in a partner.
It's about learning from the past and using that to build a better relationship next time.
He even gives some tips for online dating, like how to make a good profile and how to navigate all the back and forth messaging.
He stresses being honest about your situation and what you want. No playing games or pretending to be someone you're not.
And he reminds guys that rejection is part of the process. It doesn't mean you're not good enough. It's about finding someone who's truly right for you, not just settle.
He even shares some inspiring stories about men who found love and happiness after divorce. It shows that it's possible to rebuild and find someone who truly gets you.
Stories highlight how important it is to be patient, resilient, and willing to learn and grow from what you've been through.
So even though divorce can feel like the end of the world, this book shows that it's not. It's a chance to start fresh, redefine yourself, and build a life that's even better than before.
It's about taking control, embracing the challenges, and coming out of it stronger and wiser. Welcome back to our deep dive into surviving the divorce wars. In part one, we talked about some of the harsh realities of divorce, the power imbalance, how men can be taken advantage of.
Yeah, it can feel pretty overwhelming, like walking into a war zone without any armor. But as we go deeper into this book, we see that it's not all doom and gloom. The author offers some really smart strategies for coping with the emotional fallout and getting your life back on track.
He starts by saying that healing begins with acknowledging the emotional damage. He compares divorce to a train wreck.
Wow.
Sudden, devastating, and you're left feeling completely lost.
That's a really powerful image. It captures the shock and trauma so many men go through, especially if they didn't see it coming.
And he argues that society doesn't really give men the tools to deal with that kind of emotional trauma. They're expected to just brush it off, bury their feelings, and keep going.
Yeah, that whole man up thing.
Right.
But bottling up your emotions is never healthy.
Right.
It can come out in bad ways later on: anger, depression, substance abuse.
Exactly. He stresses that seeking help isn't weak. It's actually a sign of strength. He encourages men to find a therapist, join a support group, or even just talk to a friend or family member, someone they trust. It's about having a safe place to process those emotions and develop healthy ways to cope.
And it's not just about talking it out. He also suggests practical things like exercise, meditation, and journaling to take care of yourself. These can help you feel more in control and improve your well-being when everything feels chaotic.
He even talks about the importance of rediscovering yourself after divorce. It's a time to look inward, reassess your values and priorities, and set new goals that align with who you are now.
It's kind of like a forced reinvention in a way. Scary, but also a chance for growth and positive change.
He really encourages men to embrace that opportunity, to set new goals, personal, professional, whatever, gives them a sense of purpose and direction.
Yeah, it could be as simple as learning a new skill, taking up a hobby, or even traveling to a place you've always wanted to go. It's about taking back your life and making it your own.
He acknowledges that there are practical challenges too. Downsizing to a smaller living space, adjusting to a tighter budget, and taking on new responsibilities.
Downsizing can be tough, especially if you were used to a certain lifestyle. But he says try to see it as an opportunity to simplify, declutter, and create a space that truly reflects who you are now.
It's about creating a sanctuary where you can heal, recharge, and plan for the future.
What about dating after divorce? That could be a whole new world, especially if you've been out of the game for a while.
He doesn't shy away from the challenge. He says it can be intimidating, especially with all the dating apps and new social norms, but he encourages men to approach it with an open mind and a positive attitude.
Be authentic, right? Be upfront about who you are and what you're looking for. Don't try to be someone you're not.
Exactly. He warns against rushing into new relationships too quickly. He says, take your time to heal from the divorce, figure out what went wrong, and be clear about what you truly want in a partner.
Learn from your mistakes so you can build a healthier and more fulfilling relationship in the future.
Right. And he gives some practical tips for online dating, creating a good profile, navigating all those messages.
Yeah. He says be upfront about your situation and your expectation. No need to play games or pretend.
And he reminds men that rejection is part of the process. It's not personal. It's about finding the right person for you, not just settling for anyone.
And he shares some really inspiring stories about men who found love and happiness after divorce. Proof that you can rebuild your romantic life and find someone who truly understands and appreciates you.
Those stories really show how important it is to be patient, resilient, and willing to learn and grow from your experience.
So even though divorce can feel like the end of the world, this book reminds us that it's not. It's a chance to start fresh, figure out who you are, and create a life that's even better than before.
It's about taking control of your life, embracing the challenges, and coming out of it stronger and wiser.
All right, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into surviving the divorce wars. We've talked about the emotional side of things and the practical stuff about rebuilding. But there's one more big piece we got to cover, the legal battle.
Yeah, that's where things can get really nasty, especially with false accusations and a system that often feels stacked against you. And of course, the fight for your rights as a father.
It's a minefield.
Yeah.
One wrong step and everything blows up. The book really stresses how important it is to be prepared and to have the right lawyer on your side.
Oh, absolutely. He's super adamant about that. He even compares false accusations to IEDs.
EDs, like bombs.
Exact. Hidden threats that can just explode and cause massive damage.
That's a powerful image.
Right.
It really shows how serious this is and how important it is to be careful. So what can guys do to protect themselves from these IEDs?
Documentation, he says, is key. Keep records of everything. Emails, texts, social media posts. Even write down notes about conversations you have. Create a paper trail to prove those claims are false.
It's like building your defense brick by brick.
Right. And he also talks about gathering any physical evidence that supports your case. Photos, videos, eyewitness accounts, anything like that.
Anything that can back up your story.
Yeah. And most importantly, he says, find a lawyer who specializes in men's rights and false accusations. Someone who knows how to fight those claims in court.
Level the playing field.
Yeah.
Have someone in your corner who can really fight for you. But even with the best lawyer, the system itself can be really intimidating.
He's honest about that. He talks about the biases that exist, the laws that are outdated, and even the fact that some judges might be more sympathetic to one side over the other.
It's discouraging. It can feel like you're fighting an uphill battle from the start. But he says don't give up.
Be informed, understand the system, play by the rules, but be strategic too. Knowledge is power, especially in a legal fight.
He says it's crucial to know the laws in your state because divorce laws can be really different from place to place. And of course, having a good lawyer, even if it seems expensive, is really important.
He sees it as an investment, protecting your rights, making sure things are fair. A good lawyer can help you navigate the system and fight for your best interests.
Like having a guide through a dangerous jungle. They know where the traps are and how to avoid them. But even with the best preparation, legal battles can be emotionally draining.
No doubt. Court appearances, depositions, mediation, it's all stressful.
He recommends things like breathing exercises, meditation, or even therapy to manage that stress. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Got to take care of yourself mentally and emotionally throughout the process.
And he also digs into the challenges of fighting for your rights as a father, especially when it comes to custody and visitation. He knows there's a bias towards mothers, but he doesn't want fathers to give up.
He says, be proactive, be involved, keep records of everything, go to school events, schedule regular visits. Write down everything about your interactions with your kids. Build a strong case that shows how much you care.
He even suggests finding support groups or online communities for fathers going through divorce. Talking to other guys who get it can be really helpful.
To remind you that you're not alone in this. There are other people who've been there and made it through. And that brings us to his final message. He talks about the importance of self-improvement during and after the divorce.
And he's not talking about trying to be someone you're not. It's about personal growth, healing, becoming the best version of yourself.
He suggests finding new hobbies, going back to school or pursuing career goals, maybe even going to therapy to deal with any issues that might have led to the marriage ending.
It's about taking control of your life, your choices, your future, creating a life that makes you happy and gives you a sense of purpose.
He wants men to see that divorce, as painful as it is, can be a chance for positive change. It's a chance to learn from your mistakes, rediscover your passions, and become a stronger, more resilient, and more authentic you.
Turning a bad ending into a brand new beginning.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into surviving the divorce wars, I hope you're feeling empowered, not defeated. Remember, knowledge is power, support is crucial, and self-improvement is the key to building a better future.
And if you want to learn more from the author himself, you can check out Surviving the Divorce Wars on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay informed, stay strong, and keep fighting for the life you deserve.